What the frick is happening, my little munchkins, huh? Welcome back to Plat Chat Overwatch, episode 70. 70 years of Plat Chat.
It's been a long time.
We got to this point, haven't we?
God, you don't look a year older.
You do.
Thank you. I have a new thing for the set.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's Custa instead of Matt. It's a great addition.
Perfect.
Yeah,
I really like him.
we took Matt out for this episode.
In 2021 than Matt. Wow.
We got Custa in instead. Thanks for joining us, Custa. Thanks for filling in.
Of course, it feels like anytime anything happens with Valiant, you're like, yo, Custa, you're available, right? And then I just come waltzing in.
Yeah, old reliable.
Yeah.
But we're
I actually did get something for the set though. And it's not your food that you're trying to hide. It's a different piece of food. This is out of stock everywhere. I was trying to find things for the set, and I thought we have to get a thing of Lucio O's. And this isn't some kind of shill advertising because you can't buy these anywhere. This box went out of date in October 2019. It will murder a person if you open it and try and eat it. Just a single sniff would kill a child. It reminds me of the World Cup desk. What are you looking for here? Oh, it's free loot box as well. Yeah,
free loot boxes, but we missed the submission day.
Yeah, by how long?
A year.
I had to buy it on eBay secondhand because you can't buy it from any stores. It seems like it's completely gone. But yeah,
this will make foresight. Really, like storing away a box of Lucios because you're gonna sell it on eBay 2 years later. Like that's foresight.
I think
someone's a genius.
I mean, they made a profit on this. They made a profit. I'm not going to disclose how much I paid, but I will admit it was stupid money for a box of cereal. And I'm cooking this up. You guys are investing in crypto and all sorts. I see out there people investing in Tesla. I'm investing in Lucios. I've already seen the profits of these things.
It's kind of
I'm in it for the long term.
It's kind of crazy how good the Overwatch marketing team is.
Yeah.
The fact that they got a cereal made, vanilla flavored cereal.
Yeah. It was relatively tasty when we ate some of the World Cup. Anyway, I just wanted to show that off because we got it. And now it will live in the background of our set forever.
There you go. It's got the Olympics logo on it.
Oh.
Proud sponsor of the Olympics that didn't happen.
There you go. Josh, what's that pillow on the desk? That's also new.
The little Cloud9 pillow.
Oh.
Little Cloud9, just generic gaming stuff. Because, Cloud9 actually... They own a team in the Overwatch League. Don't know whether people knew that. Called the London Spitfire. They don't run it though, but they do own it.
When did they stop running?
That's weird. I don't know why that would be relevant this episode, but I feel like that might come up later on.
It could come up.
Don't know.
It might come up.
Before we move on, I have a question. Okay. What are these trophies? And the one on the far right, what is that for? Why is another dude carrying another guy? Yeah.
This is the new Wyatt's Weekly Award. If you watch Plat Chat Valorant, you'll know that
he's trying to limbo underneath another man.
Yeah. No, actually, this isn't a dance.
No, it's wrestling.
This is wrestling. He's about to suplex this guy.
Yeah.
Genuinely.
That guy's going down.
Yeah. But yeah, you would know if you watch Plat Chat Valorant, but...
Oh, I don't. I'm not going to lie.
Guess you're loyal to one game, aren't you simp?
Well, people should. People should.
Let's get this show started. Let's talk about the first topic of the day. The official format for the Overwatch League 2021. They did something. They put out an article. I haven't read it yet. I haven't watched it.
They did a whole video with John Spector. He had some more memes on his whiteboard. One of the memes was, who hired Matt? Did they get him a new box? So... Find out who hired Matt. See there in the background.
Yeah. Get a better mic. Did he get a better mic?
I think so, yeah.
I mean, it's on the to-do list. So.
It says try out for British Hurricane trials as well in the back, I think. Practice for British Hurricane trials.
Also says VTubers for casters. So I'd love to see what Sideshow VTuber would look like.
It's a sentient egg.
I'm interested. I could draw something up. Maybe we could get some submissions going.
Oh, I can't wait for all of us to have... What is it called? When you have VR, you have like an assistant or like a helper, a mute.
Oh, yeah.
Are we all getting mutes for the Overwatch League? Is that what's happening?
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I assume you mean like Clippy for word. Is that what you mean?
Cut that out, Kurt. Cut it out.
Don't go down that rabbit hole.
Let's not go there.
There is a lot of information released in this video and following article as well, though. They talked about the rough format for next year, the amount of teams in both regions. I believe this is where the information about the Valiant playing in the APAC region came from as well, because you can see they're not there in the West, in Europe and North American region. There was a bunch of other stuff as well, except I can't remember off the top of my head, and also I can't remember what's public and what isn't. So I'm gonna have to wait for the article.
I don't want to leak stuff.
Essentially, it's like last year, you know, like they're bringing that back mid-season tournament. So there's gonna be 4 of those, and then the regular season matches becomes like qualifiers for those tournaments, right? So it's going to be pretty similar to last year. There was something about Hawaii, like if they do like a tournament. At the playoffs, I think they said they maybe want to have them in Hawaii.
Yeah.
So I just want to. Can I go? Come on, John.
Go.
No, I meant go to Hawaii.
Oh, go to Hawaii.
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is unbelievably interesting news, right? So they actually, this article was good on the OverwatchLeague.com, but GG Recon, I think it was Yiska actually, but it might not have been, did an interview with John where he went into more detail about like how they came to these decisions. And they basically said that during the gauntlet and stuff, they've trialed this system where they add artificial latency, right? And they found that from gathering feedback from pro players that 90 ping is about where Overwatch stops being nice to play. Fun. Fun. And also, in some senses, it doesn't even work as intended because of stuff like Doomfist just bugging out and like the tech just working really weirdly. I think there's weird stuff with Ball on high ping as well. So the 90 ping is like their goal for next year. And so they said, if we get East Coast servers and perfect the routing and get it to these European teams, we can have them both playing on 90 ping.
Sure.
And they want to make... the tournament finals interregional between the APAC teams and the North American teams. Ooh. That is massive news. And their fix for this is if they route things directly, if they fly out the North American and possibly, by the way, European teams that qualify to Hawaii, they can get, they believe, 90 ping roughly for both parties to Asia. I think it routes to Tokyo directly from Hawaii, and you end up being in a playable situation where you are literally playing from North America, from the Hawaii, which has the same restrictions as the rest of the US.
That is ridiculous.
It is. I mean, what world do we live in?
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
It's interesting. Because me and Johnny lived in a time in which where we played, teams from NA played against teams from Europe, and it was just awful because like at some point you have to, one team's playing with really high lag and one's playing with low. So this like new system that Overwatch has been able to do where they get both people on exactly the same latency playing from these, you know, different regions is actually incredible for the game. And if they can get it sub 100, like I've played on like 200, I've played on 160. The break point I think is actually a little bit higher in my opinion, around 120. After you get to 120, projectiles just stop existing really, and you just get hit by random damage. So I think this, if they can get it sub 100, it will feel good, and I don't think you'll see much like competitive integrity loss for the tournaments.
That would be so sick.
How amazing would that be? That is actually like, I've never heard any other company even try that. Like when they were saying the servers in Greenland, I was like, haha, yeah, that's been actually a thing that's been a meme for ages with like NA versus EU. Like, oh, why don't you just put it in Greenland? Yeah, fuck off. That's not how the cables work. Apparently, Hawaii, they do work like that. What?
I was just surprised they could add artificial latency. Like, I swear they've added some latency to my game sometimes because it just keeps lagging. But I don't know what's up with that. Anyway, I don't think
it's artificial.
No, they keep adding latency to my game, Bren. That's why I kept missing my shutters. I can't believe it. Anyway, I think it honestly would be like, if they were managed to bring teams to Hawaii like that, it would be like setting the pace for rest of esports, really, because it has been an arms race during COVID for esports to be like, hey, we're gonna have like an a virtual set, and like we're gonna enable all this competition online, and we're gonna make it as fair as possible. Like if you actually like went to Hawaii, and maybe I'm over dramatizing here, like I think it sets us a great precedent for the rest of esports, really. And the fact that Overwatch League could do that, I think would be just great overall. Yeah. And also, I want to go to Hawaii.
The Overwatch League single-handedly saving the Hawaiian tourism industry.
I want us to be on the beach. You know, our backdrop is the ocean. The waves coming in. Me, Custa, and Zoe. Zoe's dressed in like a nice flower dress. You know, me and Custa wearing shorts. Custa looks really Australian, has like a big Australian knife in his pocket. You know, just see like some sharks in the ocean behind us. Like, it's gonna be great. I'd love it. That'd be fantastic.
Why does Jonathan think they're gonna take the casters or the desk? Like, why does he think they're gonna take anyone?
Don't take this away from us.
Production quality. You'd have like people walking behind us. You'd have the waves crashing in. I think it'd be beautiful,
mate. I mean, you saw the to-do list. VTubers for casters.
We're all out of a job next year.
You're going to be in your virtual character.
Yeah, get in an AI suit or get the fuck out.
We're gonna have our green screens again. So they're gonna put up a camera in Hawaii, and then we'll be VTubers on a green screen at home. So it looks like we're in Hawaii.
Yeah,
that's really what it's about.
I totally agree with you, Johnny, that it really does feel like this is one of the biggest steps to me that is. Owl is actually pushing the envelope across esports. Like this is a very different strategy to what a lot of other games have gone for, where they've tried to bubble or they've set up, somewhere and had like Worlds with Riot. That was a totally different answer to the same problem, at least not the regular season problem, but a similar problem. This does feel though like the Overwatch League actually pushing the envelope and doing something new, innovative that nobody else has tried. With that is going to come probably technological hurdles that they haven't anticipated quite yet. Even with all of the planning in the world, something this kind of scale.
Cool idea, though.
It's an amazingly cool idea.
I think it's a cool idea.
All I'm saying is, you've got to give them a little bit of slack as they work out the kinks too. Like if this happens and something goes wrong the first time around, you've got to be a little understanding that this is something no one else is really trying to do or has done before. It's kind of wild. So if you see the players complaining about like, oh, the ping was actually 150, they told us it'd be 90, like, all right, they're probably still working out the kinks, you know? There's a little bit of leeway I think that you have to give them here. And the other aspect of this too is the US is still under pretty, in some places, very severe COVID lockdown restrictions, ICU units. Like there are really, really fucked up areas of the country. So it's interesting to me. And I don't know how smart it will end up being that 4 times per year they're going to be flying, going into a major airport hub, flying somewhere else, doing stuff. I say that having just moved, but I drove partly because I didn't want to use airports right now as well.
Well, I felt pretty safe when I was flying.
Yeah.
But I flew with Delta and they were pretty good.
Yeah.
Because they blocked out the middle aisles. I mean, I could see a solution where they literally just book out a commercial flight.
I mean, if they're sending 4 teams there, it's possible, right?
My question becomes for these European teams. Like, I think, if we do have these European teams and they actually have full European players now, are they going to be able to get all those players to Hawaii to solve that problem? Or are they just going to play from Europe now to play the West? Like, there's definitely going to be some, I guess, hurdles that they're going to have to solve, and they might not be able to solve throughout the season. But as you guys said, this is like fundamentally something that's never been done. So I'm hyped to see at least how they can execute on this a little bit.
It's a really interesting.
Was it unclear like when they would actually fly out? Was it for like every small tournament, or was it only for the playoffs?
I think they said stage playoffs. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so that's 4 trips to Hawaii, John. That's 4. Come on.
Yeah. I don't understand.
Please sign me.
I don't understand what they're going to do with the European teams, though. There doesn't seem to be anything that I've seen in what John's talked
on them
about.
Being shit?
Maybe, because the thing is, some of them have like UK players, like I mean, hybrid. For
you won't
example.
be able to get back in. You can't get into the US. Right now,
not
currently.
I'm sure there's other travel restrictions from European countries as well, but I'm not aware of them. I just know the UK is restricted.
It's a whole like it's called like it has like a name like the Shoppen area or something, but it's like
Schengen area.
all the Schengen area. There you go. I just threw something out there, but it's like all the Nordic countries. You know, I think it's even like Germany, Netherlands.
Yes, majority of EU.
Majority of EU, yeah. So it's not only the UK. Like a lot of countries actually can't travel. That's the reason I didn't go home for Christmas. Like I couldn't go home to Christmas because I couldn't go back into the country, right?
Yeah,
so that's a big situation and probably largely why European teams don't go back to the US. I mean, there's multiple reasons, but that's probably one of them.
Yeah. The at the end of the day, though, you have to work with the cards you're given, and this year. You don't want to just exclude European players from being able to be signed. You have to come up with a format that is workable in the current environment. And this seems like a really good format that's going to deliver good games, good competitive integrity, and at least give us some like sprinklings of interregional stuff midway through. If the unfortunate casualties are the European players not being able to make it to the stage finals, that's better than them not being able to compete at all in the season, in my opinion.
Does Hawaii have the facilities?
Yeah, it's not completely like, you know, just beaches and all that kind of stuff. It actually has some reasonable infrastructure, and I'm sure it's been looked into enough, right? But
I think I'm not saying I'm not under the impression they don't have roads, Custa. Like, I know for a fact that they have.
I know what you mean by the servers and shit, right?
I mean, I'm thinking like an actual like center where they can set up and the team can play in, you know, like
presumably.
I mean, there has to be. Yeah, it's 2020.
If there wasn't, then they wouldn't have announced that they were going.
Sure, they could also just bring shit there.
John's like,
rent out a conference center.
Yeah. You could just rent out a conference center as long as they have the actual internet you need. Everything else kind of.
Do they have 5G in a way? You know, maybe they should get someone to actually like give them 5G in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Is there 5G in
like you're
Hawaii?
talking about with contract negotiations with Owl? Keep it on the down low. We don't mention names until contract negotiations are through, do we? Could be any available data provider.
I haven't said anything. Nothing.
Oh my god. Was there anything else in the article?
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff.
Cool. Let's just not go over it.
I can't remember what it was. So they released some dates as well. So now when everyone's asking you when does it starts in April. They said spring before. So this is actually more of a concrete beginning.
Okay. Starts in April, ends in September.
And there's 4 matches.
They also released that there's going to be 4 regular season matches as like seeding for every tournament. That occurs, which is an increase of 1 over previously. So previously it was 3. And they actually, when John was doing this interview with GG Recon, he said that they ran a bunch of data analytics of the difference between going from 3 to 4. And apparently it much more strongly correlates. It's kind of like a tipping point there, where if you run 4 randomized games heading into a tournament, you've already got a much better understanding of where the team actually is supposed to be, and it removes a lot of the arbitrary strength of schedule stuff that was plaguing it last season, where you might have 3 easy games or 3 hard games.
Have they fiddled with the numbers in terms of weighing the matches? Like the way, do you remember we had those issues where they were calculating in terms of with the tournament results? The tournament wins didn't matter because at the end of the day, the seeding was your win ratio. Your win-loss ratio.
I don't know whether they announced anything in this article. It would be there if they have talked about it, though. I'm not sure. I'm not aware of that if they have. I don't think so. That'll probably be some more information.
There's the community tournament as well. And then it's the San Francisco Shock versus the World competition.
Yeah, I think that could be pretty cool.
Yeah,
they've had a long time to workshop it. It's like been a pretty chill off season from the outside point of view, from the Shock's point of view. So this could be a pretty awesome show match with a bunch of
Who's the world?
Well, I think that's kind of the point. It can be anyone.
Okay.
So like they can have all-star different teams that they go up against or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, like the the world's your oyster at that point, isn't it? It's just a cool idea for a tournament. You could put them against like old Rogue with Jonathan. You put them against
shit!
Bring him back.
Shit community match that would be. It's like, oh, let's take these ancient, washed-up players and put them in a show match against the best team, back-to-back champions of the world. Hello.
I don't know. I had faith in you, actually, Jonathan.
You just want to see me fail, Josh.
No. I don't want to see you fail. I had hope and optimism for your chances in that game. I thought you could reignite the flame, the fire.
Mate, the only chance Rogue beats San Francisco Shock is if we play Valorant. That's it. Like, bring Twick, Uncle AKM. Maybe I can play support or something. Just give weapons. That's the only way, dude.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Wins can be a smoke or something. Who knows?
But other than that, the article just gave us dates, gave us Hawaiian servers potentially, or Hawaiian solution, and there wasn't not really much else, is there?
Yeah, I'll say it's a very nice update, because it feels like John and the Overwatch League team is ahead of a lot of things. Like, we got this update and we're like, cool, great, ecstatic about the new season. It's gonna be cool, good changes overall. Like, I'm just happy with the update in general. And I think that's worth pointing out. Like, it's a rough situation. The world is, a bit messed up at this time, but John delivered a nice update, and in general, like, good changes all around. Like, I'm really happy with it. So it seems like they're ahead of a lot of things and thinking about things like ping, like how are we going to make this work, and doing progress every year. And, that was Nate Nancer's old saying, like, every Overwatch League year should be better than the last. And I feel like that's on point with this update. So I feel really good about it. I'm excited.
There were a couple of other changes as well, so I just wanted to throw them out into the world. So obviously this works if you understand anything about maths, but I didn't say it explicitly, so I'm going to reiterate it. Because there's 4 tournaments and you play 4 regular season games to seed for them, that means there's only 16 games per team, down from 21 last season, down from 28 in season 2, down from 40 in season 1.
Right.
So you're playing half the amount of games as you did in season 1 per team. Or actually way less, 16 instead of 40.
Let me pose a question there then, because I think that's actually quite interesting, because there's a balance where, like, you have too many games and you have too few games. So for example, in the NBA, they play a shit ton of games. To the point, and in baseball as well, they play a shit ton of games because they want to have as many TV broadcasts as possible so they can monetize, get as many ads in as possible, revenue, etc. And then you have other sports like football that plays less games, So like every game becomes more important because every game matters in a way. But I feel like 16 games, that's a bit too few. I feel like we're getting to the point where, like, every game is crucially important for the teams to advance and, like, get good standings. But I don't think that energy and the importance is going to translate to the viewer as much. I know it's a shorter season, it's only from, it says on the schedule on Reddit here, I think it said from April to September.
Yeah, April to September.
So that's a shorter season than we generally have, right? And maybe, I don't know what next year is going to look like, but I wanted to know your thoughts on 16 games a season. Do you think that's too few, or should we have more? What do you think about this?
I think it's one of those things. Like, I played in the 40 match season, and that was just brutal. And it literally felt like some matches you just threw them and you're like, it's whatever. It doesn't matter to the seeding. I think I agree with you that 16 might be a little low, but I actually think I really like it because it's going to mean, as you said, every match is going to matter, but I think that's important. I feel like we've lost a lot of that in the past, especially with last year, with how many games and how chaotic and all over the place it was with the COVID situation. I think it's going to make more storylines and be like, this team lost to this team, and that's super important because they only play now twice in a season. So instead of just everyone just playing everyone and teams able to make those mistakes, the team at the end of the season that has the best record or like has good seeding is going to actually like be representative of that.
Yeah, you will only play some opponents once in an entire year, right? Like if you're in the North American division and there's 12 teams and you have 16 games, the way the maths works, you're only going to play the majority of your opponents once and some of them twice. So it's what I'm I mean, I like a lot of the components of that. What I dislike is you get a bad meta, you just throw it away. And like the big games of the season, if you get them on a bad meta, they're no longer a big game. They're just a throwaway, you know? Like a Shock versus Philly can just be well, it's not even a thing anymore, but like a Shock versus a Dallas Fuel or whatever, maybe that'll be a huge game for next year, is potentially a throwaway if you get it on a, like, I don't know, a very strong Tracer meta, for example, because Striker's incredible and Dallas doesn't really have a Tracer. But if you get it in a different meta, that could be an insanely good matchup. So I think there's more risk, I feel, to having the games be, I don't know, not quite as exciting as they should be, because the patch could just kind of muddle a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I'm worried about that as well. Like, the more matches you have, the more, like the less matches you have, the results become more volatile, right? But if you have a ton of matches, then the results in the end are going to be less hyperbolic and more representative of like how good a team really is. I agree with Custa that like you can't have too many matches because it's just unreasonable at that point. But yeah, I feel like maybe 16 is a bit too few. We'll see what happens.
I feel it's just going to be interesting to feel it out. I don't have a good feel at this point.
We had a good number last year, is what I felt like. Despite the chaos, I felt like we had a good number.
Yeah,
like the season,
it wasn't bad.
It didn't feel. I mean, I think the whole fucking year was fatiguing. Actually, I was about to say it didn't feel fatiguing, but I think it's easy to get mixed up in terms of the general feeling of 2020.
It was rough to do it online, Bren.
Yeah, it was real rough to do it online. But the season itself felt like we were in a good position because at the end of the day, as well, the fans, they want to watch games.
Yeah.
They want to see matches, and when you're shortening that even more, you're kind of like. I don't know. I feel like it is a bit of a risk. I think of. Yeah, I don't know. It might honestly help with audience engagement. Some fans might like that it's a shorter season because it's easier to follow the course of it as opposed to it being really long and you're just like waiting for the end result, right?
Yeah,
it's something that we're gonna have to see.
Yeah, I think you have to feel it out. I think it's really hard to tell.
We've kind of killed this. Sorry, go on.
The only thing I'm worried about is like 2-week hero pool is now a fairly large part of the season. If you get a bad one.
Are we doing hero pools? Has anything been said about hero pools coming back in? Because I personally didn't like them. It was just chaos. But we haven't like heard any word from the league. I hope they don't, but we'll see.
I will say the one nice thing about hero pools is that it did force change and inject change into the meta in a way that it did its job, right? But I have a feeling as well that Ashe, until every other hit scan was banned, teams probably wouldn't have experimented with Ashe as quickly. Yeah. And we wouldn't have seen her see as much playtime. Like, it was good for actually kind of forcing changes in the meta even when hero pools weren't around, I think. And literally just like opening the eyes of the teams into what compositions are strong outside of the already,
it fulfilled its job to a certain degree. There were some other changes as well that I wanted to go to. They have... This is a direct quote from John Spector. There's a host of improvements that we're looking to do with YouTube as we head into the second year of our partnership with them. The one he's most excited about, or rather, if it's a direct quote, I should say, the one I'm most excited about, is just going to be upping the actual stream quality. And that's something we've been working hard at with them and are now confident we're going to be able to deliver for next year, end quote. So that wasn't in this article. It was in the GG Recon article. Where they were directly interviewing him. But he's basically, it's going to be a significantly higher stream quality for next year on YouTube, which is a huge improvement because the actual YouTube encoding, I think, is at a higher quality bitrate wise, but the compression was worse. Yeah. So the end result ended up looking muddy compared to Twitch. Yeah. It was very weird.
Yeah, it was odd. But I'm excited about it. Like, that's another thing. I'm just happy with it because like they're ahead of it. And like that was a big complaint last year was like, hey, the quality is kind of scuffed. And then some people on Reddit was like, hey, check out the MLG stream because that's better. Like, that's just difficult as a viewer. And now they manage it. They increase the quality. They're like, hey, this is a problem. We're going to fix it. It's just good overall. Like, awesome.
Yeah. They also said their partnership with IBM is going to lead to a bunch of interesting new stats stuff. Yeah, this quote from John says, I think there's a better fan-facing product that is dissecting all of that stat information and presenting it in a way where you could start to answer, who is the best at Overwatch? Or why is this team the best? Through stat-driven ways, and a lot of the initial focus with IBM has been on that type of work. Interesting.
Yeah.
A lot of the data analysis stuff has been done by teams, actually. Like a lot of the teams invested in data analytics to find talent and to refine talent. And it's not something that the league has done too much of. A lot of the stat stuff has been pretty manual behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So who knows? I mean, have you ever seen that robot that beat everyone at Jeopardy? The IBM Watson.
Sure.
Jeopardy?
Yeah.
Is that what you're thinking?
I think John Spector's going to roll out Watson with a VTuber front, and it's going to just spit up beep boop. Striker is the best tracer in the world.
It's like, why? It just provides a fucking list of statistical evidence, and we're like, oh, I can't compete. I can't fucking compete.
And then it goes over to Jonathan, and he aim good. I don't know.
We're all gonna be replaced by robots.
Yeah,
Plat Chat is gonna be done by AI at some point.
We all knew it was coming.
You know, they'll do that thing where they like take episodes of a show and they just compile a script and they like print out a new script for a show based on like the most generic things. They'll do that with Plat Chat, and we'll all get our own AI. So Sideshow will say the most Sideshow things, Bren will say the most Bren things, and just keep it going. Matt's an AI already, so it's gonna be much of the same, but.
That's pretty much it, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is pretty much it. Okay. Yeah. I'm looking forward to the 2021 season. Honestly, this despite the obstacles, I think it's clear that we've got good people behind the wheel. You know, I felt like early Overwatch League, you had visionaries, and now it's almost like just the realistic, hardworking.
Yes.
You know, people who are just
pragmatic,
actually turning it into a reality. Nice.
Yeah. I feel very similar.
It's nice. The next topic we've got is unfortunately not that happy. There was some streamer drama in the scene with Ryujehong, and he was called. Apparently, he's a full-time streamer now, signed by Gen G. I will say before we get into this topic as well, all of this is in Korean. None of us speak Korean. There were some translations being put out by some presumably former fans of him, or just wanted to essentially let the Western scene know. So there's a lot that we don't really, I don't really know what the fair way of putting it is, but we just don't really know.
It's hard to tell how severe it is when you don't speak the language. Like clearly there's some, sexist terms in there, but how severe they are is very difficult to assess from the outside, like what your reaction should be. It's difficult to follow.
With that being said, at face value, I mean, the guy apparently, I mean, not even apparently, like he's deleted his VOD and everything else, all the actions of someone who, I mean, clearly is fucked up. And if you're sexist, I mean, just don't be fucking sexist. It's pretty easy, you know?
Fucking genius advice.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not even that though as well. I was actually I was very disheartened to read a lot of this news coming out because the situation was just fucked when I was reading about it. Now, I was taking translations again from people off of Twitter, but one of the things that I saw Ryujehong defending himself with some of his comments and some of the stuff that he was saying, which I'm not going to be repeating. We're not going to get it too far into that. But some of the stuff that he was saying in terms of to defend himself was that it's to be expected in the streaming culture of Korea. And all I can say to that is, what the fuck? Seriously, like what the fuck? Why would you want to go into a job or any sort of field or anything like that if that is the culture you're going to have to inhabit, even if you don't believe in it? But I mean, clearly the guy doesn't give a fuck because he's planning on continuing to do this kind of shit. So,
and just blaming the environment instead of taking responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a horrific situation all around. We don't normally talk about drama. He's not an Overwatch League player anymore, though he is a former Overwatch League player, and he is a large part of the history of the scene. But, I mean, yeah, it's just incredibly disheartening all around. I mean, it's...
Yeah, Gen G themselves haven't released an official statement on it. Ryujehong put out an apology, but it seemed... I mean, I'm not even sure whether there was some like discrepancy over whether the translation of the apology was
There was two different translations,
right?
And we don't speak Korean, so we don't know which one to take.
Yeah.
So
it's a very difficult drama to follow from the Western side of it, to know like how bad it is. But at the very best interpretation of it,
it's still really bad. Yeah, it's still really fucking bad.
Yeah, so do not be a sexist piece of shit, and don't follow or stan, I suppose is the verb,
stan,
people who are sexist pieces of shit either. So, and that's just a general rule. That applies to everybody that you meet on the internet. Try and make the internet a better place than you left it. Like if you're going around the local park, pick up the trash, don't leave your own.
Yeah, it's disheartening. It really is. But I mean, we had to address it on the podcast because we knew people would be asking for it. But yeah, it's not like we've got this isn't fucking Keemstar. We're not going to be coming out with the latest drama, pulling it up for the clicks, you know.
We should though. Yeah. We should create a separate Plat Chat drama channel.
I mean, you can do that by yourself in the corner, to be honest. Now, speaking of, as I've just said, we're not Keemstar. We're not addressing the drama. Well, what's our next topic? It's the Valiant drama.
But this is actual giga juice.
This is juicy now.
So this is actually related to the Overwatch League. So we felt like we should spend some time on it, and also. I've got to also address this because a comment that I made is that I don't like talking about leaks on Plat Chat because it can hurt teams, it can hurt careers and other stuff. But in this case, this is just, it's almost blown up to such a gargantuan proportion that we kind of have to address this now on Plat Chat because it's, I mean, it's kind of wild. The ramifications
we can't get it any bigger than it already is. Everyone's talking about it. Yeah. It's insane. Do you want to try and summarize it?
So... Halo of Thoughts, who does he call himself a journalist? I don't know.
A leaker, I think.
He's a leaker.
I think that's how he refers to himself.
Who wants to be known as a leaker?
I mean, he's posted a tweet saying that the Valiant org is being bought by a Chinese org that he doesn't know.
Yeah, we should find the exact wording though, because the wording is really important as well.
It is very important.
Because it seems like there's a little bit of a game of semantics here that I'm annoyed that is being played, but so that's why the wording is pretty important too.
So here's the tweet. According to multiple sources, the Immortals Gaming Club has sold the Los Angeles Valiant to an currently unknown to me Chinese organization. Also, according to sources, is the new Valiant owner does want a team with a heavy Chinese influence. What's the second tweet? I didn't see the second tweet. More incoming roster moves because the new owner wants Chinese talent.
Yeah.
Reached out for comment with Valiant, and I will update when I receive a response.
So the aftermath of this as well is that the Valiant issued a response, publicly, a tweet response, saying... Actually, again, I don't want to fuck up the wording here.
You should see it, yeah.
I'm going to try and find the tweet.
The quote tweet of it.
Yeah, it
says...
It should be one of the most recent tweets by the LA Valiant, if you can find that, Kurt. I'm searching for it myself as well. Here we go. We would like to confirm that this rumor is false. IGC will continue to own the LA Valiant.
Immortal Gaming...
Immortal Gaming Club, I want to say?
Yeah, okay. Immortals Gaming. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And we are excited about the opportunity to grow the brand's global reach this year. Now, if we ignore the garbled corpo speak at the end, the thing here as well is that the Valiant are saying that the selling the Valiant is false. They're specifically not addressing the rumor about them chopping and changing players.
Yeah, picking up Chinese players or...
All of the players are tweeting like Monka S, sad face, I can't believe it, this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The kind of stuff that leads you to believe 100% some horse shit is happening down in the Immortals camp, down in the Valiant camp, and Valiant are just denying that small portion of it whilst trying to make it seem like they're denying the entire thing.
Well, they denied that they're not selling the team. Like, they will continue to own it, right? But they didn't deny that someone might be stepping in to like manage the situation.
Exactly.
Yes.
So that's why I think it's vague, because it's not like addressing all the things that Halo pointed out in his tweets. It's just like, we're not selling the org, but we're excited about expanding global reach, which is like, okay, well, that means that something's happening here. And I think it was listed in the announcement that John made as well, right? That LA Valiant will but compete in the Asian standings. So that's why it's a bit too vague. Like, what? Now we're just gonna speculate about what's gonna happen because they put out like a bad tweet about it.
Yeah, but go on, Custa.
I just think it's pretty obvious that it's like one of those situations, like in my eyes, like especially with the players being very publicly upset about what's happening that leads it so heavily. I think it's more likely that LA Valiant playing that semantic role of like, we're not selling it, but we're just giving control to completely everyone else, which is like, well, that's not any better. Like, no one cares that you guys are going to continuously own the team if the team is going to fundamentally change. So it's like, I think a lot of people are really upset, and I think deservedly so. Like, Valiant has changed itself every year.
I know.
To this point.
Yeah. There's just some more homework for Kurt as well. There are multiple further tweets from Halo as well where he says he doubled down on it. Like after the Valiant said, we can confirm this rumor is false, that portion of it, he doubled down and he was like, I'm happy to double down on this, which Halo is, with more frequency than someone in his position should be, inaccurate with what he says, right? It's when he's not a Jacob Wolf where if he says something, you know it's going to happen, which is a problem when you're reporting big stuff like this, because if he had, this is my plea to Halo as well. Please, bro, I know that you watch, and all I ever want is for you to actually take a bit more time with your reporting, because if you do your due diligence when you report the small shit and make sure that all of that is precise, the wording is correct, that you have all of the sources confirmed and everything, you build the reputation so that you are 100% correct in everything you say. And when you break a big story, everyone knows it's true. The only reason there's so much fucking horseshit drama around this, centralized around Halo, is because he's been wrong in the past about stuff. So you don't know 100% that he is correct with what he says. If someone like Jacob Wolf comes out and says it, you're like, well, fuck it. He's obviously correct. He's not going to risk his reputation on that. But, I mean, Halo's already fucked up his reputation by claiming stuff last year that if I'm wrong, I'll leave the scene.
Impact,
and then, left the scene for a while and came back. Like, it's all sorts of fucked up.
Yeah, if Halo is trying to be a genuine journalist, then fair enough. But, I mean, what you were saying, Josh, you just got to, spend the time to actually make sure the sources are correct about what they're reporting on, double checking, fact checking, everything else.
But I want to say that the reason that you can be sure he has something genuine, or at least he believes is really genuine, is that he fucking doubles down on it. Is like, there's got to be, even if he's not correct, which I actually doubt that he is correct when he says they have been sold. So like he specifically says twice in his tweets, they have been sold to a Chinese organization. Personally, I doubt that that's the case, because then I think the Valiant are more likely to play like shitty semantics where they're like, actually, we haven't been sold. We've just given over ownership, or rather, we've given over like management, but we retain ownership. Like, that's the kind of horseshit that organizations do all the time. But orgs are much less likely to just bold-faced lie. They do occasionally, but they don't often come out and just be like, no, actually, you're wrong, when they know they're about to get owned like 2 weeks down the road. They don't often do that. But I think there's probably somewhere in the middle ground where Halo has been imprecise with his wording and doesn't know the whole story, but the general gist of what he's talking about is correct, which again just means that he should have put more time into actually breaking the story properly, and he's distracting from the main focus, which is, if the Valiant are doing this shit, fuck them. This is actually like I think it's like properly unethical behavior.
It's actually horrible for the players.
Dropping the players when you've just signed them at the beginning of the season, I think is just profoundly bad business.
The off-season is pretty much over. Forward. Almost every single team has finalized their rosters.
Yeah.
Not looking for any new players. And if it is the case where they've dropped all of these players and they're now looking for new teams, that is just deeply unethical.
Yeah, I mean, you've fucked with their lives. Like they might have dropped previous jobs that they've had. They might have been, trying to relocate, or spent money in order to upgrade their position to get, I don't know, better internet or something in order to play remotely that they would no longer have the expense for. Remember that the contracts now are only 30 days minimum as well. So in theory, they could have negotiated for longer contracts. But like someone like fucking Adam coming from Australian contenders, you're telling me he was in such a fucking strong negotiating position at the fucking the bargaining table that he's like, and you will give me 7 months pay? No, he's taking some tiny amount of it, surely. Like, the guy's not in a strong position, and if they've just sprinkled his fucking career away, that's some horse shit that they deserve to be called out for.
Yeah, and it's like these, like a player like Adam is a prime example of somebody who has been grinding for this specific opportunity for such a long period of time, and to have it just like actually signed to get it removed and then not even get an opportunity to play, not even get an opportunity to like prove himself is awful. And then you think of other players like Agilities as well, like where he got kicked off to Toronto because the team's going in a different direction. He might not have had other opportunities, but now all of a sudden he doesn't get that choice anymore. No one's trying out. Everyone's filled all the roles. All the benches are set. Like, it's really sad to see if this is the direction. And I think the nail in the coffin that makes it so truthful is there is no reason why the Los Angeles Valiant would run out of China, because they announced themselves that they're going to be competing out of China this year. That makes no sense if they have their current management and their current roster. I know those people. I know the management. Doesn't make a sense at all. So I think that is the big like ace in the hole that really proves it to me that Valiant is making this move, at least in some capacity.
Yeah, this was the announcement from the Valiant where they said they were excited to join NYXL and Philadelphia Fusion.
I saw this and I assumed that they were working out some sort of system where they were going to be getting Korean visas. They were going to be having a life like living in an area where COVID isn't quite as crippling.
Yeah.
You know, I'm actually going to be able to...
they said they're moving to China in the last sentence.
Yeah.
It's simultaneously local and global, and moving to China for the 2021 season in the midst of the ongoing pandemic is an example of how that structure is valuable.
That should have set people off.
I mean, it did. I think this was after Halo announced it, wasn't it?
No, this was before, because everyone was super confused for like 30 minutes. Everyone was like, why is this happening? This doesn't make any sense.
I don't think Americans can even get into China right now in terms of the visas, right?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Not sure, yeah.
I don't know. But, I mean, best case scenario to come out of this is that Valiant realize this is going to be horrendous for their PR, and they try and like backpedal and then send their current players to China. Like, there's just no good solution. Even if they realize that they fucked up at this point and they try and backpedal, you've locked yourself into a hole. Like, you can't send those guys to live in China for that long. If you've made the financial decision to move the organization to China, you are kind of obligated to pick up another team. And it's not that that is a bad decision in and of itself. If the LA Valiant had, at the beginning of this offseason, decided, we want to operate out of China, and therefore they drop their current players, I don't have a problem with that. I think the fans might, but I don't, personally. I don't think that's a bad, unethical decision. I think doing it after the roster deadline is locked and everyone else has stopped looking for players, that's the part that's absolute horse shit.
Yeah, I mean, this happens in sports, right? Like, this is business after all. And the owners will look at their investments, their wealth, the organizations they have equity in, and they'll be like, this investment is not paying off for me right now, or like, I would like to reallocate some of my portfolio, or, you know, invest some of my money, or, you know, what I have into other stuff, you know. And that happens in sports. Like, sometimes people sell basketball teams or NFL teams, you know, like that just happens. That's part of running like a franchise leagues. So I agree with you that like we should, as fans, grow accustomed to the fact that some of these teams might change ownership, which means a change in direction and like how we do things, because as we said, it's a global league, which means that you have the opportunity to do these kind of things, right? But I agree with you in the end that this was a poor way to go about it, very suboptimal. And also, I don't think there's any precedent for this, or obviously there's no precedent for this in the Overwatch League, which means that the player contracts are kind of scuffed in this way, because there should be some kind of like parachute for them. You know, I don't know how it works for like big corporations and like people have parachutes and stuff, so like they get some salary after they've been left off. Obviously not for everyone, but I think the league should make some kind of changes moving forward. So if these situations happen, then the players just aren't just like thrown away like they're nothing.
They previously did, though. In previous seasons, if you decided to drop a player, you had to pay, I think it was like the majority of the rest of their season contract, if not the entirety of the rest of the season contract. I can't remember exactly how much it was.
I can speak on that because I actually had that. I had a contract going into last season, and it was becoming a thing. If I didn't retire like officially, then I was still on a contract with Valiant. It was either going to be I was going to play on that team, or if Valiant didn't want me and they didn't want me to like play out the season, they were going to have to pay out my contract. There is the negotiation of Valiant is like, hey, we'll give you 60%, and then we'll like come to an agreement for whatever reason of like, we'll give you a streaming contract, stuff like that. But legally, I think the players are entitled to their entire contract unless they are but nothing's changed for the players, right? The players should be able to keep it.
No, well, the thing is, this season they added the 30-day contract stuff, right? I think this was the first year. I think this stuff was reported really early on in the year, where I think it was during the off-season tracker article or something like that, where they said there were some changes to the contract structure this year. One of them being this 30-day minimum contract, where if you are terminated, if they decide to cut you, they pay out a minimum of 30 days pay instead of it being the entire season. The idea being that flexibility is incredibly precious right now because of COVID. Some people might not be able to play. So, some people, whatever, they can't attend an event or whatever the reason might be. It was, as I understood it, it was the league trying to give the teams more flexibility with the contracts because the teams required it to operate during the stresses of COVID. Now, the problem is people abusing it. That's what I think this is. This isn't a normal usage of that rule. This is the worst possible time to try and invoke this kind of thing. Like this to me isn't the league enforcing bad restrictions in the contracts. This to me is the organization misusing some component of the contract, and it's on the fan base and on the public to create a PR backlash for them not to do these kind of things in the future. Like this to me is where like you pay what do you call it? You vote with your wallet kind of thing, where you if you don't like the way that a company operates, if you believe that it's acted in some unethical manner, you don't necessarily need to regulate. You need to have the consumer actually decide whether or not they want to support that company anymore. I feel like that's the kind of thing that is going to end up happening here, whether people call for it or not. It's just that people are not going to want to be fans of the Valiant as much anymore. Yeah. After they've just screwed over their players.
Who was going to be a fan of them if this?
Well, I mean, if they pick up a Chinese roster, I don't know what's going to happen. But if they pick up a Chinese roster, what's to stop Chinese fans becoming fans of the Valiant moving forward? Maybe someone who doesn't live in Hangzhou or Guangzhou or Chengdu.
Sure. Yeah, I think they'll have. I mean, assuming all of it is correct, I think they'll have Chinese fans. But they've spent so many years building up a loyal fan base of Valiant fans.
Yeah.
So many years. Like, it was... the Valiant, as long as I can remember it as an org, has always marketed itself as the inclusive team, accepting of everyone, doing good charity efforts. They have spent years trying to build themselves up as a good brand, a good inclusive team.
Which, I mean, I'm not even going to get into it, actually.
Yeah. I just think it's if this all comes out and these players are getting fucked over, it's so it's so disappointing, I think, just overall.
Yeah, but also, again, whenever we're talking about this, we're assuming that it's all correct, and we're assuming that it all plays out in like the worst possible world for the Valiant, and they don't defend themselves and they just fuck over the players, and they're like some evil tycoons that are just running off to China with the money. but
well, I think, okay, this might be a hot take. Okay, I might just go off here. But going into the last season as well, we were not in a similar position where obviously they weren't moving to China or anything, but we had that whole thing where they were like, hey, we're going to save money and like we're not going to spend too much, and they made a statement about it. And that's why we had we're not broke. But then we had such low expectations of the team. That's why everyone thought that Valiant would be 20th, because they literally just picked up a bunch of random players. And obviously Packing 10, Gunba, they're geniuses, their scouting is incredible, they got a good team. Custa vouched for them the entire way. He was right. And obviously they got great performances, right? But still, there was that ownership part of it that was like, they're not spending any money at all. And they're literally just trying to get by. So they signed for players for probably, I'm assuming, minimum pay based on the names they got and the reputation they had, etc., and where they signed them from, right? Maybe someone got paid, I don't know. But I think this is not the first time that Valiant ownership or management has kind of try to pull something like this off. But in general, I agree with Bren that I think the people working for the Valiant and like putting on these community events, building the brand, I think that has been phenomenal. Even since day one, 2018, I think Valiant has been one of the most like fan-loved brands in the league because they're able to put on such amazing events and like build a brand for their team and really be inclusive, like you say. So I still think that despite all of that, it's not the first time that the ownership group has tried to cut costs like this. And I think that they're finally like getting the rough part of it, where fans are like, hey, what's going on? Like, you can't just do this.
I want to sort of just like air out my like dirty laundry of Valiant, because like obviously I've worked at this organization. I know the people that are making these decisions. I know the people that are like doing this kind of stuff. And you say all these awesome things were created by the Valiant, and they were. The people that have worked at the Valiant were incredible. The content team, the like coaches and all that kind of stuff, the players, all the fans. They've built such an incredible thing. And that's why this comes off as just like a big middle finger to everybody who's done anything for this organization, if it is true, because they're literally throwing it away. Like anything that existed over the last few years is now gone. And I honestly think it goes back to like Noah Winston. Like, he was the heart and soul of esports, and he did like to build, and he did make this. And ever since they've sort of gone this more corporate style, they've just been cutting costs year after year, making decisions that are less important towards esports and the competitive integrity and, you know, what we all love, which is like supporting video games, inclusivity, all that kind of stuff. And just going more to just how are we gonna either make or lose the least, make the most money or lose the least amount of money. And that just seems to be what it is. And this would be that like final nail in the coffin for the brand. If this happened, like I've been a stan for the Valiant for the last year, even with the decision to sort of like not be broke and go budget. I've stand them. I've tried to like hype them up. I've tried to build them up, but this would be it, along with a lot of other fans, I'm sure, of this is like the end of the ride. And I'd be really disappointed if this is the end, because I don't think they lived up to their full potential.
What I was going to say though, when I said we're assuming that the worst of this situation, is one of the problems with not fully investigating a story when you announce it, the way that Halo has done, is that you don't get the detail. And the detail here could be really important. Now, it might not be. Like, Valiant might just have acted horrifically and everything that we say might be true. But you also have to accept that there's a possibility that, like, I don't know, Valiant told the players in advance and has been shopping them around. Doesn't seem like that from the player tweets, but it's possible. The Valiant might have, like, some, I don't know, severe money issue, and therefore they have to do this. And there was, like, some, I don't know, outside pressing factor why they had to make the decision right now. It's difficult to say with certainty that it was a deliberately malicious timing for it when you have no idea, because there are no details. I mean, there's very little detail involved here whatsoever.
We're jumping the gun a little bit, perhaps. Me especially. Maybe I'm jumping the gun a little bit before they've actually announced things, and we'll see how it plays out, right? But still, I blame the brand a little bit still, because when they responded, they shouldn't have put out that vague tweet. They should have had someone in senior management come out and be like, hey, this is a serious matter, and let's address it. Why are we playing in Asia? And make a statement from like an owner or someone who is in a very senior position at the company. But instead, we got a tweet from the Valiant. We don't know who tweeted out. I mean, obviously like a social media manager or something, and who they've been talking to before they put it out. But like, there's nothing that make me trust the process or the reasoning why Valiant are doing this. Like, why is not an owner from IGC coming out and being like, this is what's happening?
Well, what's his name? Ari Segal? Ari Segal. He was tweeting some stuff, but very vague things, and mostly tangentially related to it as well. And he has been, as far as I can tell, kind of the spokesperson, the figurehead for the new Immortals group movement towards being, I don't know, I suppose profitable is the end goal. Mm-hmm. That's why they're not investing in esports teams. So I would imagine that they will put something out at some point. But when you're involved in this kind of stuff, like you need if you put yourselves in the Valiant's position, or at least the Immortal at the IGT's position, you probably want the best scenario possible before you present the facts to people. Like, they want to find out if any of their players actually get on teams. They don't just want to, release them into the wild and be like, go free, my pretties. When you take a Pokemon and you release it, and you've actually just killed it, but it says you've released it.
That's kind of what Florida did, right? Where they were like, hey, we're trying to shop Logix and McGravy and Twick.
Yeah, exactly. But you reminded me when you talked about the social media person. Did you see Paintbrush's tweet?
Yeah, it's so good.
Oh, yeah.
So good.
But the thing is, I can see that being a scenario. If no, not with the actual gun.
They have a gun to the social media manager's
not
head.
with the actual gun, but I can see a scenario where this has a decision has come. Again, I gotta preface all of this by saying the details and context of what we're discussing and assuming. I mean, it's wishy-washy. We don't know if any of this is true at all.
Yeah.
But I can see a scenario. This fucking tweet is fire from Paintbrush.
This is one of the best tweets of 2021 already.
Yeah.
It's fire.
Can you play it with audio, Kurt, from the beginning? Is that possible?
1 second.
This is so
good.
fucking good. But I can see a poor social media manager literally getting a message from the top being like,
yeah,
shut it down.
Yeah.
It's like, what? And they're like, yeah, you've got to shut it down, but you can't say.
Well, here's the wording.
Yeah,
here's what they
here's
give
the
you
wording,
as well.
make the post.
And the social media manager's like, I honestly, in these scenarios, I feel the worst for the social media manager as well, just before we play this, because they get all of the ads. Like, their phone is set up for the Valiant Twitter account.
Yep.
And they are getting pinged like 3 times a minute with people just being like, you fucking bastards, you've ruined their careers, I fucking hate you. Yeah. And this poor social media manager is just doing their best. They're just a little person working in esports, doing their best to put out good content and everything being on schedule. They didn't have anything to do with the decision making, and they are getting the fist from the community. And it's not like they can pass it on to their boss. They're not like, hey boss, look at all this hate we're getting.
Should make the CEOs manage the social medias from now on.
That would be great.
Of the various brands.
Oh wait, 1 second. I want to add something as well. I know people who have worked in social media. Fans, I know some of you are crazy, but please don't. I know people who have gotten death threats over being the social media manager. They get them in the accounts and stuff like that. Don't do that kind of stuff. It's awful for the scene. And think about the person behind. They're not the ones making the decision, as Sideshow said.
Yeah.
So just chill. Yeah. Okay, I understand you might be upset at the Valiant, but it's not their fault.
Yeah, but at the same time as well, I feel like it is right for the fans to express their anger over a circumstance like this, and social media is one of the best places that you can do it. It's just as long as it's not directed at the social media manager, don't slip into the DMs and be talking about the person specifically. But it is right to show the company that you disagree with the vision that they go for when they actually announce the vision.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also, if you're a social media manager, don't take your organization's mentions personally.
Yeah, fuck them. Turn them off. Those bastards don't deserve you.
They're not at you. They're, most likely. So, I've been a social media manager for a little bit. Just they're not at you. You're just typing the tweets. It's about the people behind you. So
I'm just the messenger.
Can we look at this meme?
Sorry.
We stand messengers in here.
Let's watch the meme. I want to see it again.
Write the fucking tweet. I said.
Okay, I'll write the tweet. Stop. You have to do this.
Or you're gonna lose your job just like everybody else.
Okay. We would like to confirm that this rumor is false.
Nice.
We are not broke. I repeat,
we're the opposite of broke.
We are
Maybe we're broke,
not,
but we're not
broke.
Good. That's good.
Good? Okay.
No.
Can I keep my job?
No.
Legendary meme. Actually legendary. I also posted another link in the live chat as well for you, Kurt, because people who are following the news around esports will realize, if you scroll up to the top, that this is an article on Bloomberg, the technology portion from November of last year, and it's
just block that.
What in the? Oh my God, we're doing live hacking.
I'm in.
Yeah, this is so this is a report about the Immortals group looking to sell their Overwatch team, and this is back in November actually. Immortals Gaming have also agreed to sell a Call of Duty team, and they're exploring options for their Overwatch League team, including the possible sale of all or part of the franchise. So that's the other thing as well. You could sell part of the franchise, and in theory, what the Valiant tweeted could still be semantically correct. No, we haven't sold it all, actually. We just sold a majority share. Like, they really, it feels like they're just being a prick on Twitter when they're denying the rumors. Like, I know that if it is wrong, and Halo used the wrong wording and fucked up pretty big time when it comes to like something big like this. But if you're just going to have a blanket denial that doesn't give any extra information, you've fucked up yourself, because you're just making it look worse and worse and worse. Anyway, the rest of it is talking about the strategic shift for the owners, the IGC, because the IGC, Immortals Gaming, intends to focus less on city-specific teams and more on businesses related to online gaming, such as Gamers Club, which is a subscription service in Latin America which connects video game players. And they've realized that there's money to be made in selling gaming stuff and not in owning esports teams. And so this is just part of their long-term shift. Like Custa was talking about, the like whole shift in dynamic for the entire company. Ari Siegel. Is it Siegel? Really?
Siegel. Ari Siegel, yeah.
Ari Siegel says here, we've enjoyed strong growth in our non-team asset portfolio, which basically means everything that isn't owning teams, and are excited to leverage a strong balance sheet. We're excited to make some fucking money and focus our energy, time, capital, and other resources on these aspects of the business. We want to spend time on stuff that actually makes us money, so we're kind of trying to bail on the whole esports component of it. He added that the company will continue to invest in some esports teams. So, yeah, that's it. But again, this business side of it is not the problem. The problem is the timing. The timing and fucking over your players' careers is the wrong part of it.
Yeah, I think this is like the death of Immortals as like, you know, Immortals has been around for how many years, like as like an esports organization. It just seems like over the last few years, it's been going in a completely different direction. And I don't think we'll see Immortals be that sort of like, you know, top tier esports organization that it used to be in the past.
Yeah. Sad times, to be honest.
Yeah.
Very sad times. I really hope that some of the Valiant players at least get picked up. Like, for example, someone like KSP or someone like Shax in particular. I hope that people can find spaces on their roster for them. They are, those two in particular, though the rest of the team as well, they did really well last year compared to expectations of them. They performed well enough easily to be in the Overwatch League. But under these extreme circumstances, KSP and Shax, KSP in particular, they're still good enough to get picked up, I think, if people can shuffle the numbers around and they haven't already found that spot. Those guys are too talented to not play. Yeah, it would just be a tragedy.
If this ends up coming out as all correct in terms of the story that we've been telling, at least on this show, which it could still not be, because again, we don't have the full details, a team could get some serious goodwill from just picking up some of these players, but not even thinking about the goodwill. You can pick up some seriously good players who are proven, who have obviously, in this scenario, not had the best of times. But yeah, I think that is the worst aspect of it, Josh. The one that you keep iterating, which is just the timing of all of this, could not be worse.
Couldn't be worse.
Could not be worse for a decision like this.
Also, how is it even... This is another portion that we haven't even got into at all. How is this move even in compliance with the league regulations? Like, it's past the signing deadline to have 7 players on your roster. How can you just get rid of 7 players and reportedly still be in the process of building a new roster? Like, how does that even work? Like, these are all the details that we don't have access to yet, but it's...
I would not like to jump the gun on that. because I'm sure we'll get an explanation as to how or why it does work that way. I don't think, knowing John as well, and I'm just, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I think he'll also kind of like, be like, here's how this happened, or like, here's how they pull it off, like something like that. Like,
I don't think
here's what I'll say about the Overwatch League. Like,
no, I don't think so either. I can see how
maybe
some people might draw that conclusion.
I just think we're a tightly knit community, and I think there will be questions that ultimately have to be answered. And maybe it won't be John, maybe it'll be someone else. I think we're just going to get clarification. I don't think it's going to be the case that things will just happen and we'll be left clueless. I think one way or another, whether it's a journalist, John, someone in the community will like explain, what's happened here. I don't want to jump the gun on that in particular. But
I just have questions. It's not that I think there's been some like
I think we all do
wrongdoing by Owl. I just have questions. Like it's such a confusing situation as to how it even occurred.
Anyway, we can talk about something else. Some signified news, some actual news, solidified cement. We got the foundation being laid. Here it is. JMac becoming a coach. There it is.
Yeah. I mean, he's already been coaching teams in the Gauntlet. And apparently he was mega hardworking. Yeah. So I don't know whether you saw that. Well, no, you don't. You're a fucking hermit monk that lives in a forest. You don't partake of social media. But there's a Reddit post, I want to say like a month ago. Might have been less than that, though.
Later, I think. I think it's older.
Really?
Because it was around the Gauntlet, right? Are you talking about the essay that JMac
wrote for
one
of
his
It was literally
players?
I want to say like a 60
I did hear about this.
60
like
page
a 60
Google
page
document.
essay, right?
Yeah.
Or like the Google doc that JMac made. Okay. Well, that rings a bell. Yeah.
Yeah. And so basically the report from the team was just that he was incredibly hardworking and diligent and had been one of the primary reasons why that team had been successful. Jesus. Oh, there we go.
There you go.
There we go. For dark mode. I couldn't remember what the name of the team was, but there we go. Why is that? Yeah. 23,000 words. I don't know how long that is, but it feels very long.
Well, it's quite long.
Yeah. I think I had to write like a big project and it was only 10,000 or 15,000 or something. So.
God damn. His brain must be massive.
But
I
also
can't even fit that many words in.
It's the kind of thing that seems impressive, but I can't imagine a good coach ever doing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I did get that impression, but I didn't want to shit in his cereal.
Well, yeah. If the dark mode guys said he was effective, then that's the best judge of whether or not he's effective. Sure. But that's like a weird way of coaching, is writing a big essay and asking people to read. I assume that was like he wrote it all down and then was summarizing and chunking it for them and maybe, talking them through it and stuff. I don't really know.
Regardless, I am always pleased to see players moving into like the coaching position. As we all know, coaching is my passion. I like to talk about it a lot on this podcast. But yeah, I'm excited to see another player kind of moving into the role, or at least it being solidified into the Overwatch League itself, because that is the kind of flow of information, I suppose, the trickle-down effect. Start to see JMac as a player probably has been coached in the past, I'm assuming, and he probably knows what makes a good coach, which is how you get good coaches.
That's a good question, actually. Who was JMac coached by? JMac was on the London Spitfire, coached by Agape, and was Pavane there at that time?
I think Pavane might have been there at the very start, but left early or something like that.
I can't remember.
Rings a bell to me as well.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm just misremembering as well.
Anyway, I'm interested to see what he does with them. He's got a challenge there, though.
Yeah.
Really a challenge. Not because the Paris players are bad, but because like they're going to be playing on high ping and might not be able to make it to the stage finals or whatever. We don't really know what the situation is with that. So it'll be interesting to see what he's able to put together.
Yeah.
Nothing else to add, lads.
I think this will be a similar case to Roar, like for the Washington Justice, perhaps. Obviously, I don't want to paint them with the same brush, but I think, it's like players moving into assistant coach roles. I think, me and Custa, we've said numerous times on broadcast, it's just like, even if you're a former player, just having like a nice, like different perspective can really just help a player out enormously. Because when you scrim as much as we do, and you get into like routines, you get into like a set of habits that's really hard to break through. Like, you play this meta and I'm a main tank, I'm Winston, these are my jumps, I do these same jumps every time on every map, and you just get into like a weird set of habits, and you carry that perspective with you. But having someone, a pro player who you respect, being able to break down those habits and break down that perspective and provide you ulterior perspective really just helps make you a more complete player. So I think, I agree with you. I don't think there's much more to add to it, and I think that JMac will be able to provide that different set of perspective to these players, and it's a great acquisition as an assistant coach. So I think it's great overall. Rounds out the Paris Eternal coaching staff, and I'm just excited to hear what the players have to say about him. And obviously, we've seen now from the post as well about what he did, writing down all those words and feedback for Dark Mode NA and the Gauntlet. Like, that's going to be really helpful. Maybe you don't need to do all your analysis in like Google documents and like type stuff out to players like that, but it proves that he'll be able to contribute in a way to the Paris Eternal, which I think will be very helpful for Paris Eternal this year specifically. So yeah, I'm just excited to hear about it, because I think it'll be on par with the Roar going into playoffs for Washington Justice. Just like this guy who's in the background contributing a ton, you never hear about him because he's an assistant coach and like he doesn't get to be in the limelight. But I think it's big. I think it's big.
Yeah,
I do want to just talk about, like, I think there is this massive hurdle that I think a lot of professional players don't realize when you're going into coaches, that just because you understand the game doesn't mean you know how to explain it and teach it or sort of like help other players improve. But as an assistant coach who has a professional, at least when I was a player, talking to people that you know have been in the same seat as you and giving more perspective, it sort of gives you that extra mindset, as Johnny was saying. So I'm always happy to see a professional player going to coach, and at least he looks like he's enjoying it. You write that many words, you have to enjoy it in some capacity. So yeah, happy for him, and hope he does great things, because Paris, like, that's a hard roster. It's more like European based. There isn't that many Korean players, at least not compared to last year. So I'm excited to see how he meshes and succeeds.
God, can you imagine if he doesn't like it and he's just doing the slug because he really wants a job? And he's like, God, I've really got to hit 23,000 words, otherwise no one will pick me up. And he gets to 22,991, and he's like, I don't want it enough. I don't want it enough.
Maybe that was the requirement.
Yeah, possibly.
The essay word requirement.
Dark mode have just been sat there with the whips, just like,
guys, I've got my 23,000 word essay and I'm watching Twitch.
Jesus.
Sometimes I feel like my hosting style, I've just realized, is like a town hall meeting, and I'm the council member. Next on the docket is Bdosin and WhoRU retiring. They're retiring apparently from professional play. Again, another end of an era. I think you're going to start to see this. I think more so from, we've already had so many retirements, right? But from last year to this year, understandably so. I think it's been a particularly hard year for a lot of these players involved. Bdosin, I mean, this guy was a league champion alongside WhoRU. And WhoRU was a player who had, I think, quite a tremendous amount of hype behind him. Never quite realized, I think, or materialized into the results. But even still, two legendary players that we're seeing retire. And presumably they're moving into content creation.
No, I think actually Bdosin said he was going to completely delete his social media accounts and just kind of live life like Bren.
Interesting.
He's becoming a surf instructor.
A lot of respect from that.
Yeah. I mean, Bdosin also leaves with like a cloud of kind of confused feelings from a bunch of fans. I was reading the Reddit thread about this as well, and about half of the people involved were like, seemed like a bit of a shitty person. Like, there was a bunch of the stuff of like him harassing Sebiobi in ranked was like one thing that kept cropping up. And I know that he had a reputation for being a bit like toxic as well, just in his natural interactions with people. I don't know, because I never actually talked to the guy because I don't speak Korean. It's so difficult to actually get a feel of a player personality when you don't speak the language. But yeah, there's that kind of stuff that mars the legacy a little. Just to put an extra dampener to it all.
Sorry,
go on, depressing episode.
Well, for me, it's like, I think these are both incredibly mechanically talented players. Like, WhoRU was historically one of the greatest Genjis and flex DPS players to play in the game during his peak. But he also had a massive falling out with Lunatic High. And then when he did come of age, he joins, MYXL, and he just never really meshed with that team. He never really got the play time, which was always confusing. So I think he really struggled to find his place. And same thing with Bdosin. Obviously, he won that championship with the London Spitfire, but since then he's had like almost like a steady decline of like impact in games and sort of play time as well. So I think two players that sort of hit their peak, but haven't really been able to get back to that, and sort of calling it quits at this point.
Yeah. It's pretty unfortunate that WhoRU wasn't older. I know that that's a dumb thing to say.
Where's this going?
Because what the fuck
no, I
do
mean,
you
like,
think it's going?
But what do you mean by older? Because normally when pro players are going into esports, I don't know where your mind's at, Josh, but I don't like it.
No, I don't like where yours is at.
When people, because normally when you're in esports, like it's associated with like a young man's game, you know? Right. It's like you want to be young for the reaction times.
Well, the reason
have that drive.
The reason I say I wish that WhoRU was older when he started was because I feel like he is the classic example of the player that wasn't able to hit his peak in OWL because he spent too long being under 18 playing in contenders, and he kind of hit he peaked and had to be benched in like 2017 before, and he was 16 at the time, I think, right? So
somewhere around there,
that is absurd, and that's the kind of guy
he's 19 now.
Yeah,
God, he's still so fucking young. Actually,
that's what I'm saying. If he in the second year of competition had been able to play in the structure of an OWL environment, or if he was a player that was, he was beginning his career now and he had all the talent that he has now, but none of the past experiences of playing on other teams, I think he'd be moldable into something great. He's got all the talent that's there, but he spent too long in the quagmire of tier 2, where he didn't really.
Quagmire.
Yeah.
That swamp.
Yeah, like a swamp. Yeah.
Quagmire.
Yeah.
Sounds like a
I think
Pokemon.
it's Quagmire, isn't it?
I think there is a Pokemon called Quagsire or something, right? That's like I think there's something like that.
Quagmire.
On Josh's point, I want to throw in there as well. Imagine if WhoRU was able to go with Lunatic High to Seoul Dynasty in Season 1. Imagine if you paired him with Fleta and they had all the original Lunatic High. I think that team could have been, he could have been that catalyst for this team to be something special as well. So, it's, obviously we had other people fill that role, but WhoRU, I know Johnny can agree with me. When we were in Apex in 2000 and I don't know when it was, 17 or whatever it was, WhoRU was just terrifying. But when I got there, everyone's like, have you played against WhoRU yet? And I'm like, no, should I be terrified? And they're like, yes. And he was terrifying to play against. I've never been one-tapped by a Genji so many times in my life as an Ana. And he was just that next level player who just never really, as you said, hit that peak when it mattered.
Was I there? Was I washed up already?
Was I washed up already?
You were there with Fnatic. It was Envious, Rogue, Fnatic, and we were all washed. And Misfits maybe, and we all sucked, and we all got owned. That was the fall of the West in Overwatch as we slowly got
you would return to Apex after the West had won the first tournament in Korean. In
Korean history.
I don't think it was ever, was it?
It was. Yep, it was the first time a Western team had ever come to Korea and won a tournament. Yeah, that's why Monty was creaming his pants.
Yeah.
Huh.
It had never been
done.
But
I think have Western players not won in StarCraft tournaments?
Not before then.
In Korea?
No, not in Korea.
Okay.
It was momentous. It was serious history.
I think they've won B tournaments. I mean, I'm guessing here, right? But the premier creme de la creme world champion #1, because that was what Apex Season 1 was, right?
Yeah,
that was the best competition all the time. If you look at
Achilles might have beaten
Huck, Naniwa, people like that have done something.
Yeah.
No, but they've never won. I don't think Huck and Naniwa ever won Code S in StarCraft 2.
I don't think Code S, but there's Code A and stuff, right?
But who wants to win a Tier 2 tournament?
I don't know.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
We need
never
Wolf
won
on the
creme de la creme shit.
Wolf. This is actually Wolf's area of expertise.
Wolf's listening I know so much.
He's losing his mind. Yeah, Wolf knows so much about the
puny
history
fools.
of Korean esports.
Yeah. But yeah, it's yeah, whatever. We've
not
said
much
our
more
piece.
to say. I mean, the thing is as well. I think there's been a lot of scenarios where a player like WhoRU, who I think has always. I mean, 19 is so fucking young. This guy could literally do anything he wants still to this day, and I wonder how much of that is that mental block of the failure of the kind of introduction to the Overwatch League that he had.
Yeah.
The hype coming into it and that kind of stark drop off. But he could literally, I mean, if he wanted to, I feel like could dive into a new game, a fresh start, and we know that he's mechanically skilled. We know that he could compete at a high level. And on the side of Bdosin, I feel like it, my opinion kind of mirrors what yours is, Custa, where we saw this guy with the highest of peaks, and then it was just a steady drop-off, despite Soul's performance last season, even though I don't think that's a good metric to measure him by, because it was so inconsistent. But yeah, it's always sad to see the players retire, but it's a natural part of the kind of ecosystem at the end of the day.
I will say, to end it, I will say it probably sucked ass to just have to ride a bench and not be able to like fulfill your potential for that long. Because I think that he more than most in Overwatch was kind of hurt by the fact that he was too young and couldn't really play for some of these teams, because that's what happened to Flower as well. And I'm not saying that both of them suffered the same fate, but the fact where like people knew that WhoRU and Flower were so talented that they wanted to jump the gun and sign them before they were eligible to play, and they just had to ride the bench for like a year or two. And it's like it's sort of like playing online, you know? It's just like you get into competitive play to really participate on stage, play the big matches in front of a crowd and all that, and just sitting on the bench and just like waiting to become eligible, that does things for your gameplay as well. Like it affects your motivation, how you practice, all of that stuff, play time in practice. So I really do think that there is an alternate world where like WhoRU is actually like a god tier player. I'm not saying that he would be like the MVP or anything, but like he's a legitimately great player in the league, and he fulfilled his potential, and he's still playing in the league. I definitely think there's a version of WhoRU that is that. It's just a shame that we didn't get to see it. And I think that's with Flower too, but you know, that's just kind of how it went.
Are there any other players that came into the league as these guys have just turned 18, huge amounts of hype around them, and it didn't work? Because I can only really think of WhoRU and Flower. You guys think of anyone else?
I mean, we had Gator and Hawk. People were saying like they were like incredible, but then they were like kind of good.
They didn't turn 18, did they? Maybe Hawk
as contenders.
Yeah, I don't.
Thinking of players who were going to turn 18. You got Sparkle. He was a success, absolutely.
Alarm.
Hawk is 19, so
Hawk is 19.
I think there was discussion
around
that.
18.
I would say, well, you know, no, never mind. Not gonna go there.
There's probably some obvious players that we're just forgetting.
Yeah, I think we're probably forgetting people. But I was just struck then by the thought that WhoRU and Flower were both on NYXL, and maybe there was just some systemic problem there that fucked them up. I mean, NYXL have failed to get results.
I mean, that team was the definition of stagnant.
Yeah, they failed to get wins out of a roster that looked potent for a long time.
Yeah.
Like maybe there was a systemic problem that kind of ruined WhoRU and Flower more so than them just, you know, the problem being internal. It's so hard to know.
Yeah, I don't think they're ruined.
And also I think
their Overwatch careers were kind of though.
To add to that conversation as well, it's like sometimes when you sign ineligible players and waiting for them to turn 18, they don't have to be like star god tier players. They could just be like future potential good players of the league, right? And I think that's what happened when you see some of the signings that people did make. Two players, like for example Sharp, you know, they signed him before he was eligible because they were like, this is going to be an Overwatch League player, we're confident in that. Atlanta Reigns signed Saucy as well because they're like, hey, you know, like he's not god tier, but you know, he's a great player, we want him on our team because we know he's going to be good in the league. So just because you sign ineligible players, you know, they can still be great pickups in the Overwatch League. I think what I wanted to underline with WhoRU and Flower was like back then in 2017, in 2018, their reputation was so high and people thought they would be like the next big thing. And like the pressure on Flower was immense. And I think that's the difference with like they had that pressure on them, and they couldn't even play or prove themselves or get the practice time required to really fulfill that potential in the first place. And that's when it gets difficult as a player.
I do wonder, though, I think we might be onto something as well with it being like a systemic issue, given that I think Sparkle had the same expectations placed upon him. His play in terms of hype, raw hype coming in. When we were like literally carrying down the days until he was eligible to be played.
And Alarm, I would say as well.
And Alarm. But the one thing I can say about those teams safely is that the structure they had was good.
Yeah.
They had good coaches.
And Super and Sinatra.
Yeah,
both came into the league, didn't quite fulfill it at the beginning, but then did as soon as Krusty joined.
As soon as Krusty
the
came in, you saw the potential being dragged out of them. It seems like it would point towards that direction. Anyway, we can leave this topic behind because news on the horizon. Johnny, I saw your eyes lighting up when you were writing this one. You're so pleased. Well, not really quite lighting up, but I think you've got like a Pavlovian response to the word rascal because you know. You just want to see him. You just want to see this boy and Al. But he came out with some information on stream. I believe this is on stream, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He was just detailing essentially like his process, his trial process, or like the teams that he was getting offers for, but maybe didn't want to compete. But yeah, he just basically detailed what is going on with Rascal. What an interesting format.
It really is very interesting formatting, isn't it? I feel like English is not this guy's first or this person's first.
Look at the username.
Language. What is the username? Church of Krusty. That's so good.
They might have formatted it on mobile and it fucked up.
Yeah,
which it does happen occasionally.
Yeah.
But
I consider it being Korean format because they have their Korean forum. It could be.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, let's wildly speculate about the format.
So he had offers, but didn't expect. He had coaching offers. But was sad he could be a player/coach. I don't really understand that.
I guess just basically he didn't want to be a player coach is how I've interpreted that.
He had Valorant offers, which is interesting, but also not surprising. And he said that he thinks his passion for Overwatch is going, which I think is sad but understandable at the end of the day for a lot of these players. That he's going to stream from time to time. He got contenders offers. I think that would be incredibly difficult for Rascal of all people to go back to contenders again.
He's already been there once.
After he was in Owl, went back to contenders, worked his ass off, got a chance to play on the Shock, proved that he could compete in the Overwatch League at the very highest level, and for him to have to go back, I think, him saying it would worsen his mental, I can absolutely understand that. But offered top dollar from Defiant, but it didn't work out.
That's confusing to me. I don't really understand what that means, but I don't know. Yeah, I literally just don't know.
Had a justice trial, but no reply, which presumably means he was part of the trialing process, but some miscommunication.
But I think it makes me worried about justice because I think they just did something again with Tuba, didn't they? Didn't they just
They just announced a re-signing of Tuba. Yeah.
Yeah, they just announced the re-signing of Tuba. I'm worried if they weigh the trials that they did at the beginning of the season more than the proven performances of Rascal. Sure. I was watching Dogman's show, the Dustin Bowerman show, where he was talking about Rascal, actually. It's an interesting show if anyone's interested in Esports. He has a bunch of different guests on and talks about a range of topics. One of the things with Rascal was he thought the Rascal, I think he said he didn't think Rascal was that important to the San Francisco Shock. He thought he was overhyped and his impact was overblown, which I drastically disagree with.
Okay, he's also just trying to put out hot takes, you know?
Well, yeah,
I've seen the videos, Dustin. Come on, buddy. You know, a bit too clickbaity, but I see what you're doing.
The thing is, I'm not gonna say I 100% think that he's overhyped. He's definitely had an integral role, in GOATs. The success of the San Francisco Shock can't be anything. He was pioneered that, and then on Echo when Echo first came to the thing. But I will say this, Rascal, in my opinion, is not the be all end all flex DPS that is completely shocking that he can't find a thing. He has especially towards the second half of season 3, that we just saw. He didn't play, especially during a meta in which Genji was super prevalent. He didn't end up picking up that role. He hasn't, in my opinion, shown a ton of things. So I'm not saying he's overhyped. He's definitely a phenomenal player, one of the best flex DPS players we've had historically. But I'm not completely bewildered that he hasn't been signed, especially if he's as I said, he's been trying, and that big question mark for me is the Toronto Defiant one. It's how do you have a big offer for a team and then it doesn't work out? I'm sort of I don't really understand what his processes is. And if he's been given offers, he's just not accepting them, or
I assume that he is just waiting it out to see if he's feeling it out. He probably didn't want to play for the Defiant, right? You just play for the Shock. You don't want to go for a team that maybe doesn't look quite as good for the prospects.
I mean, there could be other things as well outside of the money. I mean, maybe I don't even know, but Maybe they wanted him to move to Toronto and he doesn't want to move to Toronto.
Yeah.
And so it didn't work out for that reason. There are other reasons other than money that it might not work out. I don't know what those would be off the top of my head, but there could be other things. I'm in a different boat to you though, Custa. I truly am bewildered why Rascal wouldn't be signed to one of these teams. Because when I think about like, I think there's a bit of recency bias, I think, when we think about Season 3 and his performance there. Because for the first half of the season, he was their May player. Like he was the be all end all for them when it came to their May, and that was what they were relying on to get wins for them throughout the. I mean, I would say he was probably the best May. I mean, Ivy actually was incredibly good, but Rascal
just
was
let me say
second.
that. Just let me. I'll take responsibility for that statement. So yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
I think sort of like what I'm trying to say is that he's a phenomenal player and he would fit on almost most teams, but I think we don't understand what the reasonings and the justifications are of why he's not accepting these offers from other teams. And maybe he wants to play on just a set few teams and he just couldn't fill that role. And it's like, that's because there are other phenomenal flex DPS players in the league that I would want, or like they have already. So that's sort of what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Like Rascal would play on most teams and be perfect.
Did you want to wrap up, Josh, before I go in?
No, go, King, go.
Let him go.
So here's the thing. Surprisingly, I actually kind of agree with Custa that Rascal's not the be-all, end-all of flex DPS player. I actually think it's a bit of a meme, like it's fun how I, did that copy pasta about Rascal, just shouting about him, etc. That being said, I still think his May was phenomenal. And I think the reason, to counter Custa's point, we didn't see him play Genji too much was because I think Krusty made that interview after the tournament where he was like, we didn't really buy in on Genji as the meta, where we wanted to rely on Striker playing Tracer at the time. And so we just shied away from that. So I actually think that Rascal would have played more Genji and had more opportunity if he wasn't on the San Francisco Shock in that period, in that meta, because I think his Genji was good enough. It just so happens that they are the San Francisco Shock and they had so many other opportunities to literally compete with the likes of Eternal. It came down to one fight playing non-meta, well, it kind of was meta, but they were playing Striker and Tracer. Like, they didn't buy into Genji and they were one fight away from making it to the finals in the it wasn't the May Melee, it was a Summer Showdown, right?
Summer Showdown.
Yeah. So it's like, that just tells you how good Shock are, that they don't have to buy into the Genji meta that much and they can still put out great results. So that's not, I'm not complaining about Krusty's approach here. I'm just saying that I think that Rascal would have seen more opportunity in a different team. Also,
am I misremembering, or did they win the map that they actually subbed him in to play Genji on?
That was in the next tournament. When they came back against the Philadelphia Fusion. In the Countdown Cup.
Yeah, you're right.
Because they were like down or something, and then they subbed in Rascal and he turned it around. Yeah, that's part of the Campo Posta. But I do think that the thing about this statement that kind of like makes me happy though is that Rascal is kind of like feeling it out. He's doing what makes him happy. He's had some offers. He doesn't feel like he has to take them. He kind of want to feel it out the space, see what opportunities are. If there's nothing that really entices him, he might not accept it at all. But there is opportunity for him. So at the end of the day, we got some answers from Rascal himself, and he's been like, yo, I've had some offers. I wanted to get paid because I'm good at the game. But also, I don't want to go play for teams I don't want to play for. So, when a person does something like that, like they make decisions on their own, and they have opportunity, but they turn it down, you can't just be anything other than happy for that person for making those decisions for themselves in the first place. So, it's a bit of a shame because I love to see him play, but if it makes him happy, go for it, King.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, all the best to him. All the best to him. Another flex DPS player, or maybe main tank player, we don't know. Actually, we do know, because he's made a decision. Hydration is apparently going to be playing DPS, right?
Yeah.
He's going to be back on DPS now for the foreseeable future.
I feel like everyone already knew this.
Yeah, but this is just being
100% confirmed at this point.
Yeah, I mean, cool. I'm happy to see it. I mean, I don't really know what else there is to say other than this, other than I think that it was almost a Band-Aid solution to the Houston Outlaws roster problems, where they wanted a different main tank player, and Hydration was the only one who could step up.
Yeah.
But yeah, going back to DPS, I suppose,
I do want to add into that because Hydration was one of the best flex Western DPS players. I think like it hit before Overwatch League and before it really started hitting that hype up. When you're talking about these characters like Pharah, Junkrat, and all that kind of stuff, he's like a specialist player that plays a lot of these niche heroes, and I'm really excited to see what he's going to bring to this Houston Outlaws roster that isn't on main tank, because I think that's where he really thrived, and I think if he's going to make a name for himself again, that's where it's going to be.
Definitely agree.
Absolutely.
Plus, I do think it was just 100% necessary for the Houston Outlaws to focus on new tank duo.
Oh god, yeah.
And you're already taking, in my opinion, you're already taking a bit of a risk with Django and Piggy. Like you think that they've got potential and they look good in contenders, but you're never quite 100% sure how they're going to play when they come into Owl. So like trying to throw one of them in with Hydration occasionally playing ball or Orisa or whatever would have been a catastrophe. It would have been a dreadful decision. So it's not that this is a good decision. This was the only decision. This was never an option for them.
So at the end of the day, where do we rank Hydration's tank career compared to the likes of him in the past, where we had Swoosh on main tank, Ryujehong on Winston, and we've had Taimu on Winston. Where do we rank Hydration's tank career? Number one DPS to go tank.
Would you consider Seagull as well?
Oh,
Diva?
yeah, I guess if you can't see
Considering the fact that Seagull kind of got shifted onto the Diva role.
Because, what was it? Because Mickey was on the toilet or something?
I can't remember.
Oh, no, wait, wasn't that the other way around? Was that Taimu?
No. So
Taimu was playing tank because Coco was on the toilet.
Taimu was on the toilet. So then we needed Seagull to go to flex tank, and Mickey went to the Winston while he was on the toilet, or something like that. And then for that reason, we were like, yo, Seagull's Diva's pretty good. And like, we can get it, like, maybe it could be more consistent and like he can practice more. And then that worked. The Taimu Winston was a failed experiment, but the Seagull Diva came out of Dallas Fuel thriving. So I think Hydration was pretty solid.
Considering if I'm considering the general strength of the scene at the time when these players played, I think Seagull's Diva just never really we never saw the potential met. I think he was being held down. The shackles of Dallas Fuel were latching him to the floor. he couldn't really rise. But Hydration, out of all the players, pretty good Orisa, pretty good ball player. Like, he filled the role, you know? He played Winston as well, right?
Yeah, he did. Yes. He did improve on Winston. I had a few watch point segments where I was like, yo, Custa, Hydration's Winston, improving on Gibraltar. What's going on?
Yeah. What about do we class Kooky as off-rolling when he's playing main tank now?
You're just gonna bring that in? You're just gonna my face right now?
No, is he still off-rolling on the Lucio? Was he? Yeah. He's probably the best.
Glad to see him back on DPS at least, where he can really shine. Our final segment. Welcome back. Like you're part of the DPS. What do they call it? Alumni? Like you're part of the fucking OGs. What do they call it? This fucking
I'm an Overwatch League DPS alumni.
God almighty. Last topic of the night. I say the night. I mean, if it is pretty late. You never know. Could be getting crazy.
Tune in after this episode to Plat Chat Live.
After dark. Whoa.
No, we're not doing that.
We're absolutely not. I'm going to bed. I got my mattress today.
Nice.
It's fucking lovely.
Nice.
It is great. Yeah. I had a little rest on that bad boy. It's nice. It's spring. It's firm. Huh?
No.
Do I want company? Bren's Player of the Week, Kurt. This week, I've decided to give my Bren's Player of the Week. Again, we're working on some new intros. I'm just pulling this out of thin air, but we are going to eventually one day we're going to record some new intros, some new green screen stuff. This week, I looked up the candidates. And honestly, I would say in terms of the general news, it's been a pretty shitty week, I think, all things considered. So I was scouring the net, and I found something that's slightly promising, some new news. This came out about, I think, maybe like 2 hours ago now. I don't know. Kurt, if you could bring up the article for me. But once again, the scientific community...
Oh my God.
The scientific community is going to be winning my Player of the Week award once again for Oxford's research tackling the threat of antibiotic resistances. A very important, yet kind of, I think, largely unknown problem that our society faces, which is antibiotic resistance. This is a problem that's kind of plaguing us Already causes 1.5 million deaths per year. But yeah, they're going to be doing more research into it. They're going to be investing a lot of money into trying to tackle this problem and hopefully saving lives at the end of it. Yeah. For anyone who doesn't know what antibiotic resistance is, thankfully we have someone who is well versed in it, Sideshow, to explain to the wider people exactly what antibiotic resistance is.
Yeah, true. Actually, it's where they become resistant to antibiotics.
You haven't forgotten, have you?
Mate, I have forgotten everything.
Okay,
about
let me explain antibiotic resistance.
I know what it is.
Let me explain it to the people.
I'll let you explain.
Okay. It's becoming a real problem at the moment. When they discovered penicillin, they were like, cool. Good. Kurt pulls up random Fortnite dances when my player of the week has no substance, no idea, no thought out plan. It's just me rambling for the end, just like a pitter off at the end. It's not really sending it off with a bang. It's more of a like
whimper.
You now know it's time to go make a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
You know, it's the end of the show. Bren is fucking rambling again.
Yeah. Would you like your blanket, Bren?
but yeah, antibiotic resistance is when you take antibiotics and the bacteria that it's fighting off, essentially it's when you don't complete your full course of an antibiotic, and what ends up happening is a small percentage of the bacteria ends up surviving because you didn't finish the whole course, which is why it's important that if you get prescribed antibiotics,
or it's just when you take it when they're not required, because the more encounters that bacteria have with antibiotics, the more likely they are to develop a strain that has resistance to it.
Yeah. So, to that end, if you get prescribed antibiotics, firstly, get a degree so that you understand, do I need antibiotics?
That's not necessary.
A whole degree? A whole medical degree?
If you're dying of a bacterial infection, do not try and get a degree before you get treatment. Okay. That is awful advice.
Well, Kurt's got this up here. This is pretty good.
Become your own doctor.
So yeah, I mean, but the way it comes about is essentially one of the most common ways, I think. Actually, the most common way, I think, is from them putting it in livestock feed to prevent infection. And essentially, they're creating super bacteria.
Yeah, because it's just preemptive. It's not like the cattle are actually coughing.
They're not sick. They're putting it in there to prevent illnesses, and it's just making bacteria stronger. But aside from that, if you get prescribed antibiotics, finish your course, even if you're feeling better.
Yeah.
That's the important takeaway here. If they tell you got to take it for once a day, 30 days, take it for all 30 days. Even if day 24 you're feeling better, the bacteria is still in you. You got to kill it all off, otherwise it's going to come back stronger. What's it called? mRNA?
Yes.
mRNA.
Well, what is mRNA?
It's like a super bacteria, isn't it?
MRSA.
MRSA, that's
mRNA is like a coding mechanism for like, it's not DNA, but it's
he
it's
says,
RNA.
look at this little cow. This is a beautiful little
stuff
cow.
that makes up smaller proteins.
My grandmother loves cows.
Yeah?
Yeah. Should we put together a little care package for her? Get a little cow something?
Yeah, let's send her a cow.
No, not a cow, but like a little ornament or something.
Yeah, let's send her some beef.
How much is a cow?
I think they're quite expensive.
Could we buy a cow?
No.
Do you know what's a cool type of cow? You know the yaks, the long-haired. I think they're called Scottish Highland
cattle.
Yeah, Scottish Highland cow. Type it in, Kurt. Please, can you bring it up? There's some beautiful. You can find some wonderful YouTube videos, and these cows are lovely.
Yeah, they're all over the North Yorkshire moors where I'm from.
Really?
Yep, they're everywhere. Because people breed them. They're not fucking native. They don't spring out the ground or grow on trees. But people.
I thought they were contained in.
They're only allowed to exist in Scotland.
Yeah. But they're a beautiful type of cow.
They fucking die of overheating everywhere else, the woolly bastards.
Beautiful type of cow. I mean, look at them. Just gorgeous.
Yeah, the young are pretty cute. Anyway, I feel like this segment has dragged on long enough. And we have a cool concept for next week's show, don't we?
You want me to tease the concept for next week?
I think so, right? We're committed to doing it next week, aren't we?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
We're doing it? We're committed?
Yeah, let's do it.
Johnny's got...
we'll do something at the very least, Johnny.
Yeah.
Yeah, even if we split it up into two shows.
Something. I'm just waiting for you to announce the details because I don't even know how we're doing it.
Because
we're discussing the logistics of whether it should be broken up into 1 or 2 episodes, but either way, you are going to get 1 or 2 episodes of this.
Here's the plan.
We're doing it.
This is the teaser. Episode 71, maybe 72 of Plat Chat Overwatch. Here's what you're going to be expecting. World Cup theory crafting episode. We're going to take 8 teams.
Dude.
We're going to theory craft the best current World Cup teams. And then at a later date, someone in the Plat Chat organization, you can do this. You're not really doing much at the moment.
Thank you, Daddy.
Well, basically, what we're going to do is we're going to run Twitter polls off of the Plat Chat Valorant Twitter. You can pull, if you
Plat Chat Valorant Twitter.
Sorry, the Plat Chat, the Plat Chat Twitter. It's all Plat Chat. It doesn't really matter what game it belongs to. Which is, you can follow that at Plat Chat Podcast. I think that's the thing. Plat Chat Podcast. We're going to basically allow you guys to battle the teams against each other. We're not going to fly the players out.
No, we're not.
But
what we're going to
do is we're going to put in a Twitter poll: Team Finland, Team South Korea, and
Team
you, the
Australia.
people, are going to vote on which team you think would best the other in our game of mental gymnastics that we're putting on until eventually we have one winner, and then in 2022 we will fly them out. And we will play against them.
And we will run the Plat Chat World Cup.
Yep. The Plat Chat World Cup from Hawaii.
From Hawaii. And Johnny will finally get to go to Hawaii. We should, when this...
I've been to Hawaii. Hawaii is dope. I was there when I was like 11, dude.
Oh, really?
When do
I'd
you think
like
I
to
want to
go.
go back? It's
Yeah,
incredible.
I'd really like to go.
I would pay money to see just a pale, lanky 11-year-old.
I think Johnny told the story on
roaming
Fortnite.
around Hawaii. Did he
I
really?
have pictures on my Instagram.
With a picture.
Really?
Wait, was it that,
Yeah.
or was it on the Gamer Caper show that we did?
I don't know.
Where you were telling us? I
remember.
can't remember. Anyway,
No.
whatever.
There's
Custa,
picture of it.
thanks for
How
coming
is
on,
it?
This sort of really kept going at the very end there. No, it was great. Honestly, it was good talking with you guys. It's always fun being on here.
We're
Yeah.
squeezing
Thanks,
another advert into the end. Just gotta.
What are you pulling up, Johnny?
No, I'm not pulling up anything. I'm just seeing if there's pictures from Hawaii.
What, you're just reminiscing on your own personal time?
Dude, I'm telling you, Hawaii was the best vacation I've ever been to. It was phenomenal. I loved it. I want to go back so bad. Yeah. I've been to a lot of countries, but
I don't think I'm a Hawaii
is
person.
still America. But still, it was
Anyway, that's Plat Chat Overwatch, everybody. Episode 70. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and comment and subscribe. Leave a comment if you think I should give Josh a fade. Yes or no?
I actually do need a haircut.
He does need a haircut. I'll
Yeah.
give him a haircut at some point. I don't know. Just leave a comment for the engagements. We need ad revenue.
Can I actually get like comments wishing me luck on getting internet? I'd really like some
yeah. Josh
internet.
does need internet. But yeah, we'll see you next time. Thanks again, Custa, for joining us. And we'll catch you next week for the World Cup preview. Boom. See ya. Bye-bye.